A brand new version of America's favorite SUV doesn't come around very often, but for 2026, Toyota has done just that. And today I'm here at their headquarters in Plano, Texas with the brand new 2026 Toyota RAV4 Limited. It gets a new look on the outside, standard hybrid power, and enough technology to make you think twice about buying a Lexus. Now that we're seeing the new RAV4 in person, let's go ahead and take a detailed first look. Now, before we start talking about the brand new styling for this 6th generation RAV4, let me go ahead and talk about what's going on underneath the hood, because Toyota has basically gone the same route that we saw in the new generation Camry. Now, I also want to point out this model that we're showing you specifically here is the limited grade. It's part of basically the core trims, offering up the LE, XLE, and the limited. We'll do a separate video on the more rugged woodland trim, and of course, there's a separate video on the GR Sport. But for this, limited trim, let's go ahead and talk about what the powertrain offerings are here. Because if you guys are looking for electrified power, you're in luck, because every RAV4 is going to come standard with the company's 5th generation Toyota hybrid Synergy drive system. So that combines essentially a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated gasoline direct and port injection 4-cylinder. It either is assisted by 2 or 3 electric motors, depending on whether you want to go for a front-wheel drive, which is technically new for 2026, or the available all-wheel drive. Last year's RAV4, if you got the hybrid, came standard with all-wheel drive. Toyota says they've increased the output because it's now running on the 5th generation hybrid system. You get 226 horsepower on the front-wheel drive versions and 236 horsepower when you guys go for all-wheel drive. That's a pretty healthy 7 to 17 horsepower increase over the previous generation. Toyota wasn't ready to talk about fuel economy, but this powertrain in the old model would get roughly 39 mpg combined. I wouldn't be surprised to see this model do better when we get those final EPA figures. Now, Toyota also says they've improved the towing capacity. Front-wheel drive versions will tow up to 1,750 pounds. However, if you guys go for the all-wheel drive higher trims, Toyota says they've increased the towing capacity to 3,500 pounds, which should definitely help a lot of owners who actually plan to tow with their RAV4. We don't have any performance figures just yet for 0 to 60 or for the top speed of the vehicle. We also don't quite have the curb weight figures yet. The old RAV4 was around 4,000-ish pounds. I wouldn't be surprised to see this new one get a little bit heavier. But let's go ahead and close up the hood here, which, as you can see, is still held up by a prop rod, and talk about the rest of the styling, because now that we have the vehicle in a different environment outside as opposed to in that harsh studio environment, we can go ahead and take a look a little bit more closely at some of the changes. First of all, this color is called Storm Cloud Metallic. We've seen this color on other Toyota models before. The limited trim, of course, has the core styling cues here. Remember, the limited along with the XLE and the LE trim are going to have a unique front fascia. The limited also gets kind of like their upgraded version of their hammerhead dual LED or full LED headlights, where you have an LED daytime running light, LED turn signals, LED projector beams. The grille, as you can see, has this kind of interesting combination of a closed off section with some actual functional air intake openings. Remember, the hybrid is standard across the board, which means there's an internal combustion engine that needs the cooling. But I have to point out, if you guys are looking for the plug-in hybrid model, you can't get the plug-in hybrid on any of the core versions. It's only available on the Woodland and, of course, the sport-oriented versions of the car. I also really love how there are fog lights available. A lot of manufacturers are getting rid of fog lights, but I like to see that Toyota has kept that here. The front fascia in general, to me, looks pretty similar to some of their new EV models with the hammerhead design headlights, the kind of closed off grille design, but it's also kind of upright, very boxy still. You also get this kind of silver metallic piece here for the lower front skid plate area. No actual skid plates underneath the car. And then Toyota didn't talk about the ground clearance, but I would estimate it should be pretty similar to the old model, which is just under 8 inches. There is a Woodland version, which we'll show you a separate video on, that will have a little bit more ground clearance courtesy of its all-terrain tires. Now, moving around the side profile, you can see the profile here is a little bit boxy, but it's kind of similar to the previous generation. Remember, this car is a redesign, but it is kind of built on the same TNGA-K architecture. Toyota basically said they've redesigned the platform, increased the torsional rigidity, strengthened it, made it safer. The wheels, as you can see, the Limited is now available with a 20-inch wheel. Previously, the Limited topped out at a 19-inch wheel, while most of the hybrid models had an 18-inch wheel, but this 20 certainly looks good. I like the bicolor design, the double 5-spoke look. You have 235 by 50 R20-inch tire, all independent suspension, no adaptive dampers. At least Toyota wasn't ready to mention if that was available on any of the trims. I also appreciate there's not too much cladding along the side of the vehicle. I mean, most SUVs have that. But if you guys are looking at the Woodland trim, that's going to have a slightly different look to it. But I think the wheel and tire package looks good. It kind of fills out the wheel wells nicely. The Limited also includes a black painted side mirror. I believe these are also power folding. You can get a 360 camera. In fact, this car comes standard with Toyota's latest Safety Sense 4.0. So now we've kind of upgraded from 3.0. They weren't ready to quite talk about what 4.0 includes in terms of the upgrades to the safety features, but we'll have that information as we get closer to the on-sale date. The roof rails, you can see, are the low-profile aerodynamic style, and you also have a panoramic glass roof. Now, that was available on the previous generation, so I'm glad to see it's carried over here. There are some competitors that still don't even offer that feature. Something like the Honda CR-V comes to mind. But as you can see over here, this is where you're going to find your fuel door to obviously fill the vehicle up with gas. On the plug-in hybrid models, the passenger side fender will actually have the charge port for the J1772, and Toyota has also added DC fast charging capability to the plug-ins, which we'll talk about that in another video. Now, looking at the rear of the vehicle, you can see the rear design of this car certainly looks interesting, because I actually was always a fan of the previous 5th generation RAV4. This to me almost looks like they've taken some cues from the 4th generation RAV and kind of married it with the previous generation Nissan Rogue. In fact, it's still very upright. You have this really cool look for the taillight design. I also love how Toyota didn't follow the whole trendiness of having that LED light bar, but there's almost like these little vertical individual LEDs where the taillights are a full LED, the turn signals are LED, the brake lights and reverse lights are an LED. I also really like the smoked finish. I'm not entirely sure if this tail light, this premium tail light, is going to be included on even the baser trims, but only time will tell when we see a lower trim. You can see there's a spoiler, a tasteful spoiler here at the top with the third brake light. The rear wiper kind of sits at the back here. And then there's lots of badging here. You can see HEV stands for hybrid electric vehicle with their Beyond Zero badge. Again, all-wheel drive, because all-wheel drive is technically now an option for the hybrid. And then there's a Limited badge off to the side. There's a lot of badging, but the other thing I also noticed, just like the GR Sport, there's a really tiny Toyota logo here, which kind of reminds me of vehicles back from the 80s and 90s where the manufacturers did really small badging. So I kind of like that feature, but let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of the look of the rear of the vehicle. I actually think I may prefer the previous generation, but I also could just need some time to get used to it. The rear bumper you can see on the Limited has some silver painted accents, no visible exhaust tips, but there is a temporary spare tire underneath the floor. And this is usually where I would also open up the cargo area to show you, but as you can see, the vehicle is an early prototype model, so you can't actually open up the tailgate. But if you guys want to see what the trunk space is like, be sure to watch our other videos on the GR Sport and on the Woodland trim. Now moving on to the interior of the brand new 2026 Toyota RAV4. In this limited trim, as you can see, this color combination isn't exactly my favorite. Toyota says they'll offer a choice between either a black Softex or a light gray Softex, and they also will have like a mineral color on the Woodland trim. But as you can see, this limited grade has the black Softex with this kind of ultra suede fabric here on this little middle portion of the seat back. The seats themselves have been totally redesigned. They're heated and ventilated, which is a plus. And on the driver, you also get a 2-person memory function. The passenger seat also gets an 8-way power. No adjustable lumbar, but the driver's seat here does get a 10-way power with that 2-way lumbar support. So that's all going to add to the comfort when you guys take this vehicle on longer trips. But as I get in here and then shut the door has a pretty solid sounding thunk. And let's go ahead and talk about the interior materials, because this is the limited trim. It's the luxury oriented version of the RAV4. You can see the door panel material has a soft touch injection molded plastic. There's more of that Softex, which is kind of like a gray color here on the actual door panel. There's a silver or gray painted plastic door handle. There's your power mirror controls, and it looks like there's actually no power folding mirror, so I take that back from earlier. You do have one touch up down for all 4 windows, which is nice. And then down in this lower area, you can see it's a little bit hard touch plastic with some additional storage. I also want to point out that this model is an early pre-production car, so some of the material choices you see in here may actually change. The rest of the dash, as you can see, has been completely redesigned. Starting with the brand new steering wheel. It's a 3-spoke design steering wheel that offers a manual tilt and telescoping adjustment. And then in terms of the infotainment system, Toyota has made some pretty nice upgrades here. You have a fully digital 12.3-inch instrument cluster. And as you can see, it's a little bit different versus the prior generation, because that one was kind of inset. This one is now kind of free floating, where it looks like a separate screen. And then on the center here, you have a choice between either a 10.5-inch infotainment system or this bigger 12.9-inch system. So this is the biggest screen that Toyota has ever put on a RAV4. It also has their latest Toyota Connected Services software behind it, where Toyota has completely redesigned the graphics. They've added a home button. They've also integrated some of the climate control functions into the screen. So there's a little bit of a button here for climate functions and a volume knob, but some of it is going to be located in the lower portion of the screen. You have traditional vents, and this is where the old model had big dials to control the temperature controls. Sadly, that's now again moved to these little buttons. Instead, you have your drive mode selectors here, your EV modes, of course. You have your different modes here for your trail and snow and normal mode. So this is kind of a change, but again, it's kind of simplifying the interior layout. Although some may miss the actual knobs, you do at least still get a volume knob. You have 2 wireless phone charging pads here, which is also a plus. I believe that's only on the higher trims. Additional storage here. And then you can see Toyota has put some 45-watt fast charging USB ports right here, along with your 360 camera button. And then you can see the shifter. It almost has adopted a shifter that we've seen in some Volkswagen products, where it's this kind of like shaver, where you basically just pull this little dial down to go to drive, push it up to go to reverse, and then push the P button to go to park. Keep in mind, not all trims will get this kind of electronic shifter. We'll show you guys the Woodland and the GR Sport that has a traditional shifter, so kind of keep that in mind as well. The dashboard materials have a hard touch plastic material, so this is kind of where I'm finding issue with the interior quality. Now this is again an early prototype, but this feels very, very cheap. There's kind of some smoother plastic over here, but this is at least the padded soft text from the door panels. There's some nice storage over here. Glove box, you can see, opens up. It's a bin style. It's damped but not lined with felt. And then over here on the rest of the center console, you can see there's a nice padded center console area, which Toyota actually lets you open from both sides, which is pretty similar to what we find in some Lexus models. But there's also another touch where you can actually pull this out, which... So we figured it out, guys. Not only does it open on either sides, but if you push both of these buttons here, the latches, it'll actually allow you to remove the entire lid. And this is where you can easily just flip it over to basically give you like a little hard shelf here where you can put some items. Although I have to say, it's not the most frictionless board here, so your stuff's gonna kind of fly around. So most of you are probably just going to leave it in the normal position here, because this is where it's gonna give you a soft armrest pad. But regardless, it's a really clever feature that I haven't seen any other manufacturer do. Above me, you can see that panoramic glass roof lets in some light. It also opens up to vent air, which I appreciate. I'm not entirely sure if the pano roof will be available on other trims. The GR Sport didn't have it, and the Woodland over there just had a standard sunroof. But overall, the visibility is good. The interior quality seems pretty average, and the audio system in this model is also should be their JBL 9-speaker premium sound, although this model doesn't have the branding for it because it's an early prototype. I'm not entirely sure where the audio system availability, the premium one, will be available. But if you guys are also curious, a head-up display is available if you guys go for the limited hybrid all-wheel drive trim or the plug-in hybrid XSE. Those are the only 2 trims to offer the head-up display. Which sadly this model is missing that feature, which it could be missing it along with the JBL sound system. But overall, as you can see, the interior certainly has a lot of the utilitarian space that people expect, and it also has a big upgrade in technology. But if you're looking for a more luxurious cabin, you may want to check out its competitors, but at least Toyota got the touch points right, and the seats are among the most comfortable you're going to find in the segment. Now moving on to the back seat of the 2026 RAV4 Limited, you can see we don't have final specs for the vehicle yet. However, because the car is roughly the same size as the previous generation, I wouldn't expect it to stray too far away from like the 38 inches of legroom we had in the old model. You can see the seats have the same kind of soft text material. They have a perforated leather. They are just a 1-level heated function that's included, of course, on the Limited trim, and you can also recline the seat ever so slightly, and you can also fold the seat down to create an almost flat load floor. Remember, the battery pack for this model lives underneath the back seat of the vehicle, but you can see the flat floor that it almost creates should be pretty nice if you guys plan to use this to haul a bunch of stuff. Now getting back here, you can see, let's go ahead and close up the door and talk about the materials. Just like in the front seat area, you have a soft touch injection molded plastic, which is a nice touch. More of that soft text in the gray painted plastic door handle, along with the window controls, which are one touch for all 4, and they're also illuminated, which is nice. Additional storage over here, of course. And then in terms of the front seats, I actually like the way they're sculpted because they don't take up too much knee room space. You also have 2 storage cubbies here, like I mentioned earlier, single level heated seats with 2 15-watt USB-C charging pads, along with rear seat air vents, which is a nice touch. The floor here is not completely flat, obviously, but there's plenty of space for me to stretch out, and I can also cross my legs pretty easily. This is not the biggest back seat in the segment, but it certainly is pretty usable, and it's also very much average. If I fold this down, you can see there's an armrest with 2 cup holders. And then above me here, you can see the glass roof does take up a little bit of headroom space, but I appreciate how it comes all the way back into the second row. This area is the only part that actually opens up to vent air, but at 5'7", I have a solid maybe 2-3 inches of additional headroom clearance. So again, for those of you who are coming from the old RAV4 into the new one, this should have pretty similar amounts of rear seat space. Now, with over 475,000 units sold last year, the RAV4 was without a doubt the best-selling non-pickup truck here in America. This outsold a lot of its rivals by as much as 100,000 units. Even something like the CR-V was just over 100,000, or just over 400,000 units. So clearly Toyota has the winning formula right for the RAV4. This is one of the first compact crossover SUVs to come to America back in 1996, and the company essentially wanted to play it safe, but they also wanted to elevate the RAV4 into the modern era, because while the old model was still one of my favorite vehicles, especially if you guys were looking for an electrified version, it was starting to lag a little bit behind in terms of technology, and some competitors were starting to catch up to it in terms of range and the powertrain spec. So after finally seeing the brand new RAV4 in person, specifically this limited trim, this is going to be the core model. A lot of people tend to buy a limited or an SE or an XSE trim level. Unfortunately, Toyota didn't have an XSE or an SE for us to see in person. We'll be hoping to see one of those vehicles sometime later this year. We also should be driving this car sometime in early October. And then the vehicle will be going on sale shortly after that. Now, if you guys are looking to get your hands on the brand new 2026 RAV4, you're gonna have to wait until this fall, like I said, sometime in either October or November. And the company wasn't ready to talk about pricing just yet. However, we can kind of speculate, because the base model of the 2025 version starts at around 28 grand. The hybrid starts at around $32,000. Because the base engine is now gone, the hybrid version is the base model. However, there is a new front-wheel drive model, which could signify that the hybrid pricing could come down to maybe the low $30,000 range. But of course, this is the limited trim with all the bells and whistles. I would estimate that this model here would probably be well over $40,000. Well, if you guys want the plug-in hybrid versions, those are gonna probably be about $10,000 more, because that's based on what the previous generation was. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2026 Toyota RAV4 Limited. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.